When we were designing his technological gadgets, we just like to take some of the traditional elements that he's always had and just add little flourishes based on kind of what we know is possible today technologically, and pushing it a little bit more so that it makes Batman that much more fantastic.
The Batcave is just filled with technology that's maybe 5 years ahead of us now. So you could look at it and go, I could figure out what that does, or I have something that's close to that now. He has his Batwave computer, which connects into every computer in the world, so he gets information first.
The Batwave technology is absolutely extraordinary. For him to be able to tap into virtually everything in Gotham the way he does, you know it's some cutting-edge stuff.
Bruce Wayne, in amongst all of his other training, he definitely focused on like criminology and that sort of lab science in that area, has made himself an expert in that area. He definitely understands chemistry at a very high level, I think on the level of any professional chemist, or maybe even beyond. So definitely in this story, he approaches the problem of the vampires in a scientific way.
Bruce Wayne is absolutely a man of science. For one thing, he has all these resources. What he can't do himself, he has engineers at Wayne Industries doing without even knowing they're helping the Batman out, of course. That's his big secret, and that's the fun of the character.
No, Joker!
The most fun we had, of course, coming up with one of Dracula's minions was Joker himself.
We thought, okay, well, we're gonna first pair Joker and Penguin against Batman. That's big, but we've seen that before. We're gonna also include Dracula in this. That's even bigger, but we need to push it just a little bit more. What else can we do? How about if Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker, turns into a vampire, and ironically, Batman has to save him in order to save the rest of Gotham City?
I am his vessel.
I like him to be more frightening than I do funny. I like the perils to be more real, the jeopardy to be more suspenseful, and I like there to be a feeling of danger whenever he's on the screen.
Let me put it this way. To me, there's like nothing scarier than two things: vampires and clowns. So what if you put the two together? You know what I'm saying? Really creepy. And we think that Joker is absolute fun as a vampire, and it's really scary. Some of the scariest moments in this movie are Joker with fangs.
The more the Batman tries to protect Gotham, the more Gotham fears him.
I think one of the most interesting things about the Batman character is that he's, in a sense, two people, and he's kind of divided. And in the series, we tell the story of the early years of Batman and Bruce Wayne sort of getting used to filling those shoes. It's a role that he's just growing into.
It's a difficult challenge for Bruce Wayne to manage his life with the Batman thing being so dominant in his life. He wants to have a life, but Batman is the most important thing in his life.
I'm sorry, Vicky. Would you believe I have to wrap this up?
He's also a billionaire. So he has opportunities that real people don't have, and he is torn in a direction of using it for his enjoyment. He can't. He's got a responsibility. He's got an obligation. He's got an obligation to his parents' memory. He's got an obligation to the city of Gotham and the millions of people who live there.
Give it up, Joker.
We think of him as a superhero, but in fact, he's not really a superhero, he's a man. And the thing that's intriguing about him is he's a human that has trained himself to the ultimate level of human potential, mentally and physically.
The style of this version of the Batman was changed because we were trying to create a younger looking Batman.
The approach that I took when designing him was that I gave him sort of like a boxer's face. He has more of like a crooked nose. The biggest sweeping change would probably be I changed his cowl from being, the profile you could see his brow and his nose. So it's more like a bowl. It's like a cereal bowl. If you want to make the Batman cowl for yourself, you just take a cereal bowl, spray paint it black, make sure it fits on your head, and you just put two big eye slits. That's really all it is.
Bruce Wayne uses Wayne Industries as his hub for cutting-edge technology that he then uses to bring into the Batcave. And one of the things that we'll see in the movie is the SL5 solar device.
I made this thing that's very innocuous looking, and you can't tell what it does, until it opens up. It has to look interesting, but not so interesting that everyone's eye goes to it when the scene starts. It's meant to simulate just sunlight. So when it opens up, it looks like you're watching the horizon, the sun come over the horizon, and it just opens up.
The story of Batman really begins when young Bruce Wayne witnesses his parents killed while he's 9 years old.
It's a tragic story, and we toyed with tweaking it. And ultimately, you don't mess with, Bible stories. That's classic.
As he grows up, he's haunted by the memories, which ultimately lead him to train to not only avenge his parents' death and find those who are responsible for it, but also to save the city from all manner of villains and evildoers.
When you're Dracula or a vampire, you can do one of two things. You can, kill people and drain them of blood, or, you can turn them into your own minions. And so we thought, wouldn't this be cool? Dracula, his ultimate goal is to take over Gotham and create an army of vampires.
Ah! Dead guys don't do that!
The Lost Ones were a lot of fun to come up with, and we really wanted to make them as scary as we could within reason. Obviously, it was very much fun to show people of everyday walks of life turning into vampires. One of those fun things was the little girl that turns around and you don't expect her to be a vampire, and it's just one of those images that's fun that you've seen in horror movies and so on, that we had a lot of fun putting that in.
Everything we do for the show, we want it to be unique to our show. So, graveyards, they're green. If you go to them, they're green, they're gated, they're one level, pretty boring places. So we tried to make it hilly, a lot scarier. We want a lot more geometry in it, better ways to frame the scene. So they're crooked graves. They're all on different levels. There's mausoleums. Everything's just off kilter. It's a very uncomfortable place.
I think the style and the look and the mood of Gotham Graveyard is pretty much in keeping with Gotham in general. Our Gotham of the series is a very Gothic, almost medieval place. The place is just dripping with ooze and dripping with history.
We want it to be a Gotham no one's seen before, but we didn't want to make it so foreign people feel like they're stepping into a world that they're like, what is this? What's going on? Are we not on Earth? So we mixed in some Prague, the Byzantine architecture in Prague, and 1940s Chicago, the urban feel of those years.
We developed a new look for Gotham City that incorporated all of elements of all the great cities of the United States. There's a little bit of New York in there, there's a little bit of Chicago in there, certainly most of the eastern cities. There's a little bit of Philadelphia in there, and it's all created into this amalgam of a Gothic sort of old world city. My hopes for the character of Vicky Vale was through her to convey the sacrifices that a hero must make in his life in order to protect innocent people.
I'm sorry, Vicky. Not right now.
She's a classic character from the comics, a love interest, a journalist. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting if she sort of challenges who he is, and he has this reluctance to get involved. Bruce Wayne puts on this bachelor act for the public so that they won't suspect him.
I always said Batman is far more attractive and enticing than Superman. Superman is just so goody two-shoes. Batman is dark. It's what every woman should stay away from, the dark, brooding man, but it's so appealing.
She's smart, she's funny, she's beautiful, she's capable. All of the things that Bruce Wayne needs in his life. However, if he were to have that, that's somebody that would make him vulnerable to his enemies, and he recognizes that. And so he sacrifices his own happiness, his own needs for the greater good of Gotham City and subsequently the world.
In creating the Dracula for this series, we wanted to have the essence of all the Draculas, or what people see as Dracula, the iconic Dracula, because it's important in the story that we capture these two myths against each other, Batman and Dracula. I like the Bela Lugosi, the Christopher Lee Draculas, they read as a Dracula to me. So we went for that kind of look. To make him the opposite of Batman, we gave him a black cape, but the inside is red, whereas Batman's is blue. We cut up the cape so it gives nice silhouettes. He's pretty pale, he has piercing blue eyes. As far as his transformation to bestial Dracula, He gets all the weird changes in the face, but we went a little bit more severe with his face rather than just the forehead getting bigger. We went and made it more bony and sharp and a little bit scarier looking. And he's a lot more relentless in the way he attacks. We take this as a monster movie, and at the end he becomes the monster that we're all scared of.
I have been at rest for quite some time. Transylvania has changed.
Oh, Dark One, you're not in Transylvania anymore. This is Gotham City.
The main thing I think that was very important for us was to make the character feel as classic and sort of mythic and legendary as we have tried to do with Batman. And so I think we drew on what are the elements that make Dracula feel like Dracula and feel classic, and you feel like it's the real Dracula there, and that's kind of what we were going for. The main thing was to have that very old European nobleman kind of feel to Dracula. To me, that is the essence of the character.
We toyed a lot with Dracula being in a more modern context when he comes into the modern world. I think in the scope of the story, that's sort of Dracula's goal. He's going to emerge from the underground and become a member of high society. The key attributes or powers that we looked for in Dracula were mostly that needed to be more powerful than Batman so it can make it exciting. How's Batman going to beat this guy? And there's a bestiality to Dracula when he feeds, when he gets that look in his eye, but there's simply that superhuman strength. It's Dracula being able to fling Batman 50 feet across the room, without breaking a sweat. There's a simple primal power to Dracula.
I will drain you dry and use your cape as a dinner napkin.
When we were designing the tomb of Dracula, we want to give everyone something really different to look at. So we elevated it off the ground. It's now suspended by chains, enormous chains. It looks like really formidable when you first see it, like, oh, he ain't never getting out of there.
We thought, well, Gotham Cemetery and his sort of cavern underneath the crypt is Dracula's own Batcave. It actually made a lot of sense because in our series, Batman has tunnels that lead out of the Batcave and go throughout the city. He's got all these secret entrances and exits that, he drives the Batcave out of. And then we thought it was cool at the moment where he figures out that Dracula is doing the same thing.
As you notice, the insane people that we depict in the bingo sequence are sort of exaggerated and almost cartoony in a sense. What we were going for was, again, a sense of unease and a sort of a creepy feel, and that was just another element that added to that.
It's oftentimes hard to tell what their goals, their ultimate goals are. They're not just criminals who are, robbing banks for the money. They're often motivated by things that are, quite frankly, insane.
Is every single villain in Gotham criminally insane? Well, not necessarily, but we've sort of, split the difference. Arkham Asylum it's where we put our bad guys.
Arkham Asylum, as I recall from the comic books, was already in existence in Gotham City prior to the first appearance of Batman and certainly some of these super criminals.
Artistically, I really wanted it to be something that we haven't seen before. So we got together and we ended up talking about orange walls. It has a warm, musty feeling to it. Wanted to go to a place that seems really warm and uncomfortable. This place is just a crazy place for crazy people, and they're never happy there.
Tweet, tweet.
Penguin's ancestors were royalty, and poor Penguin has lost the Cobblepot fortune, and now he's forever trying to live up to that.
I'll have you know, sir, I am a Cobblepot, and Cobblepots do not serve.
And we thought, okay, Penguin, he's kind of tricky because he looks like a banker. He's an old man in a suit. He's a crime boss. But, what makes him, more interesting? And I hit on this idea that Penguin, or Oswald Cobblepot, as his real name is the anti-Bruce Wayne. He's the guy who doesn't have the good looks, doesn't have the money, which he's, constantly whining about through our series. To us, it was the perfect indignity to put him through is to make him Dracula's manservant.
I'm Penguin. I'll be your server. Knock, knock.
Penguin's umbrella is definitely a classic part of the Penguin character. I think he's always had umbrellas that turn into helicopters and that sort of thing.
There's the copter umbrella, there's the flamethrower umbrella, there's the ninja chain umbrella, and so he's got quite the umbrella collection.
We have that in the series, but not in the feature. In the feature, you see him use basically his blade that pops out of the end. And that's about all he does with it, because shortly after that, he's turned into Dracula's minion. It can, turn into a blade that can saw through even metal and so on. It can be a pretty versatile device.
How is Penguin going to learn about this hidden mob treasure? So we came up with this device, playing bingo. Bingo, that's a grandma thing. Let's not play it like a prison. Let's stay true to the sort of classic asylum thing. And this is somebody's idea of recreation time. So we thought it was very amusing, but mostly it was a device to get Penguin in proximity to someone else where he could learn about this mob treasure.
Arkham Asylum became the natural place to send a lot of these criminals once Batman would defeat them.
Arkham Asylum in our series is almost a character in and of itself. It's probably the next significant location other than the Batcave. We wanted to give it sort of a tough edge, and so when you look at the guards, they're wearing like knee-high boots, they're wearing goggles. You get the sense that this is just a messy place to work.
You can understand why people just want to get out of there. It's really a scary place, and no one's very nice there.
Joker's weapons are so much fun because they're toys, and I like that sick sort of contrast between these are innocent things that wind up being really deadly. We've done a lot of different ones in the series, playing cards that he throws like ninja stars and stuff like that. The electric joy buzzer was one that we had just somehow hadn't had a chance to do, even though we've done several Joker episodes in the series, and so it was our chance to finally get it into the movie, and in a good way that plays out in a couple of different scenarios.